All right, we're here today with Dr. John Poorman. First long-form interview we got today. How you doing?
Amazing as always.
Amazing as always. How do you say so? Like, how can you have the responses amazing as always? Like every single time.
Because we've talked about this before. It's 100% on me. When my patients leave, I tell them create a great day. I don't say have a great day because that's just so passive. It's dependent upon people liking me and people telling me that I look younger than I am, and and you're such a great doctor and all that kind of shit. Versus just you create a great day. It's irrelevant of other people. It's super powerful too, though, right? Like it's not dependent upon other people liking me, giving me approval. It's just I just do my thing. It doesn't mean I'm gonna be a jackass or something. I'm just gonna be me. Just do me, and know that I come to people with the right intention and go from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of like make it what it is in your own day, I guess.
Yeah, like some people say make it a great day or, but I don't say have a great day. It's too passive. I want to be very active and depend upon me, not others.
Yeah. How much is that like for you? How much is that like mindset and how much is that your actions?
Oh, it's both because they have to be congruent, right? So it's my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. If my thoughts are I'm a winner and my feelings are I don't really know because I didn't grow up in a great household, and then my actions are one or the other. That's two of the three, but you got to go for 3 for 3. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like in baseball or something. You got to go 3 for 3. 2 for 3 is good, but 1 for 3 is not very good, and 0 for 3 is terrible. But most people are congruent where they don't feel good about themselves, they don't act very good, and their thoughts about themselves are not very good. And so that's congruent. But what it should be is the other way around, because we're all amazing beings. We're called human beings, not human doings, and most people kind of forget that.
Wow, that's awesome. Human beings and not human doings. That's a good phrase.
Have you ever heard that? No?
I've never heard that before.
Swear to God, right? That's what we're about being. So it's not about what you do in life. It's how you be. It's how you show up. Mm-hmm. So if I want to make $100,000 a year, that $100,000 person doesn't think, act, or feel like the person that makes $30,000 a year. They're just different.
Right.
And if I'm making $1 million a year, that's different than the person making $30,000 a year. So you can't be given $1 million, like you win the lottery, and then think things are going to change because your being didn't change. The way you show up in the world didn't change. Your thoughts didn't change. You just were given money. So that's where people kind of go wrong. But it's that 3 for 3.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that like what you were kind of saying that kind of hits on the fact that like external circumstances don't really change who you are, right? Like you're given $1 million, but you're not a millionaire.
Well, 100%, because people think, and we talked about this before, that I'll believe it when I see it, or he became a jerk because he came into all that money. No, he was a jerk before. Actually, I just talked about that in my clinic today. And my patient goes, yeah, it just magnifies it. I go, exactly. So again, circumstances don't make us, they reveal us. So if we look at it that way, is that it just magnified or revealed who I really was deep down. That's really the magic right there.
Yeah, that's so true. And I wanted to get into some of the stuff that's going on currently in this country with the hearings of RFK.
Oh God!
You as a medical professional yourself, and what are your thoughts? Just general thoughts on like what's happening with that right now. There's confirmation hearings that are taking a really long time.
What direction do I go? Because look at the pictures. They're not doctored. Pictures of the HHS director, Health and Human Services. The woman. Nothing against her. I'm sure she's a lovely person. But look at her. Is that the picture of health? She looks like a typical American citizen. And then you look at RFK Jr. and you go, wow, that dude is what we should aspire to be. Health. He looks healthy. He looks fit. He's got a positive mindset. He's trying to uplift other people. He's helping the underdog. Like all these kind of things. I don't know anything about that lady, but just at first glance, you look at the picture and you go, why would I listen to anything she has to say about health and wellness? Because let's face it, it wasn't long ago that the food pyramid was considered like gospel, like that's how we should eat. And then they came out with some dietary guidelines as far as what was the nutritional value for Fruit Loops, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, regenerative, organic, free-range beef, right? And Fruit Loops and Cheerios came out on top of real food.
Is that real?
No, it's true. Wow. Look it up. It's true. How does that happen even? When I heard it, I was like, this is a joke, man. And you look it up, and you're like, this is nuts, man. Like, how can we as a government and a society talk about that? That's insane. But why is that? That's because of big agriculture, big pharma, right? Or pharma, the pharmaceuticals. They want us to be sick because then we have to buy their drugs. I know it sounds crazy, but like if you just follow the money, that's the whole point, right? You've heard that before and you should listen to it now. Follow the money. Wherever the money's at, that's usually what drives our country. And if you look in the confirmation hearings, here's another one. Guys are freaking out about him suing vaccine companies and he's winning. Okay, so before he ever did that, he was a lawyer, he was an attorney, but he wasn't. You know why he started suing people? Because hundreds and hundreds of women, mothers, are coming to him saying, hey, I think my child was damaged. Can you look into this? And he starts to have people look into it, and he realizes, like, there's this common denominator. Yeah, there's a lot of people, kids that are being damaged. And so why is it that we started with, like, what was it, like 79? We had, like, 3 vaccines or 6 vaccines, whatever it was. It was very low, and now we're at, like, 77? Come on, man, that's insanity. Wait, we have more vaccines, but the obesity rate's gone crazy. Autism's gone absolutely insane. It's like, depends on where you live and what statistics you look at, but it's like 1 in 23, 1 in 35. It used to be 1 in several thousand that you'd have autistic cases. Why is that? Just look at the food, look at the water, look at the air. I mean, it's a travesty what we're doing to our general population, but then also society. And then you look at Fruit Loops. Look at the colors and the dyes they have, but you go to Canada or the UK and they don't have them. Yeah. So it's not like we can't produce them. It's that we just don't decide not to. So as Americans, the General Mills is an American company. As Americans, we're willing to put toxins into our kids, to the human race that's on the United States of America, the soil. Like, why are we doing that? Versus, and I'm not saying it's right, but if we're going to do one good and one bad, wouldn't the U.S. get the good version? They would get all the bad versions? They'd get all the chemicals and the dyes? I don't think any of us should have it, but it's proven that they can do that. So then it came out and said, who was that? That was Dr. Amen, Dr. Daniel Amen. He's known as the brain doctor. He says, hey, it just was released that red dye, I think it's number 40 or whatever color it is, but it's going to be taken, it's considered toxic. It's going to be taken off the market. They can't use it anymore by 2027.
Yeah, it seems a little late.
We know it's toxic. It's 2025. It's January, now it's February of 2025. Why do we have to wait? Why don't we give them, you have less than 1 month. Get it off. Get it out of the products, right? The ones that are already out there, you can leave them, whatever. I don't think you should do that either, but you can leave those, but you got to get rid of them. Why are you giving them 2 years if we know it's toxic? If it's not toxic, why are we getting rid of it? So you're just appeasing us because we're telling you that we don't want it in there? Other countries said, we won't buy your product if you have it. Then there's another one. I know I'm going off in tangents, but there's another one where a guy says, hey, he's in the UK, and he goes, hey, this is your American candy aisle, or this is our American candy aisle. And on there, it says the chemicals that it has in it, all the different dyes and chemicals that we have in there. And it can cause hyperactivity, can cause attention problems, can cause all kinds of problems, right? Because we know it interrupts neurotransmitters. But yeah, here, we don't have to put that warning on there. Come on, man, like seriously? So yeah, am I kind of worked up right now? Yeah, I'm worked up about this whole thing. Because he's just trying to make the world a better. And I'm not saying like he's perfect. I'm not either. Neither are you. Neither are any of the people watching this. But that being said, isn't he going in the right direction? Yeah. Hold people accountable, man. How is it that these same lawmakers that passed all those laws or continued those laws are now up in arms because he wants to hold people accountable if a child's injured by vaccines? Don't we have the same thing as if I injure someone that's crossing the street and they're doing it legally and I run into them? Or maybe they're not doing it, but I'm driving my car too fast or I'm going the wrong way and I injure them. Shouldn't I have to pay that price? Like, yeah, because I injured them. But yet it's okay for vaccine makers not to. If in a court of law they can prove that they actually injured that person. I just don't get that. Like that doesn't compute for me. That's what irritates me.
Yeah, no, I think it's because obviously, right, he's not perfect like you said, but I think just like looking at the fact that he's going in a different direction, or he wants to take HHS in a different direction. And it's kind of gone before.
Hey, does that seem like a bad idea?
No.
Look at where we're going now. Come on, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, so all these 3-letter acronyms, right? So it's HHS, CDC, NIH. Like, come on, man. Like, we have got to do something better than what we're doing. That's the best we can do. Mm-hmm. The WHO. Come on. Like, we can do better than what we're doing. So I'm glad that we pulled out the WHO. Like, what were they doing? Like, if you look at where they were giving countries money in Africa, if you vaccinate your kids, we'll give them money. So they were taking it, and then the more kids that they vaccinated, the more money they got. So they're forcing all these people to vaccinate their kids, and it wasn't even voluntary. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, right. and it should be voluntary. And I think that's also one of the things too with like, I've heard people, some of the like the criticism I guess with RFK is like you can't force people to be healthy, but it kind of seems that the stuff that he's targeting it's not like, oh, you can't. Like I think he even said this. You can't. Like he's not saying I'm not telling you to not go to McDonald's and order a cheeseburger. Right. It's just taking out the toxins. It's reproducing studies, getting better information, and taking like money out of stuff like the WHO and stuff that's like realistically the government shouldn't be involved in, right?
So you can follow guys like Paul Saladino. You can follow guys like Gary Brecka. You can follow guys like Dave Asprey. Okay, so let's talk for a second. So I was listening to confirmation hearing today, and this guy says, but you're not even qualified for this position. Okay? What's qualification? That dude with hair that he's from Vermont, I don't know what his name was. He looks like Bozo the Clown. I know I'm being personal, but you know what, man? What qualifications do you have besides being a career politician? And you're going to say that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because if you look at a guy like Dave Asprey, he has no medical background. Guy's genius. I'm not saying he knows everything. Guy's a genius. You look at Gary Brecka. He's not a medical doctor. He's not even a chiropractor like I am. He's not even a PhD. That guy's brilliant. You know why? Because he can look at the data and he can start putting it all together about health and wellness. So my thing is that why do we have to say that like you have to be perfectly qualified? Because guess what? None of us would have jobs. Like I'm perfectly qualified for my job? How? I learn every day. They call it practice. They don't say, were you an expert? I didn't stop learning. I continue to learn. So those guys are on the cutting edge and are always willing to learn new things. That's why I follow those guys. Or I should say I'm being led by those guys because I'll be able to be led by them because they're going in the right path. Obvious to me that what we've done up to this point hasn't worked. Who knows what will get done in 4 years? But you can't go, well, it's only going to go on 4 years and then maybe someone else will come in and they'll transition things back the way they were. And so we're just not going to do anything? That doesn't make any sense to me. I think we have to go forward with it. Yeah, no, go forward. I
think if there's a change that you got to make it, right? Just kind of like on what you're saying. And I think kind of what you're like kind of hinting at too is just the fact that like these people who are like successful, like you don't have to wait around for someone to say, oh, now you can do your job. I mean, if you believe in what you're doing and you want to like help people in any way, like you can't just sit around to be perfectly qualified. You got to go out and learn. You got to go out and do it, right? Kind of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, so that's why I put out that video saying, hey, Mr. Trump, you need me. And I need them too, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I said, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you need me, just like I need him. Because I have been on the sidelines and I've bitched and complained about, our administrations and all that kind of thing. And now I'm like, hey, we have somebody in office that looks like they want to do the right thing, make America healthy again. Mm-hmm. Well, great. If that's what we're going to do, then I'm going to jump on board. And so I put my hat out there and just said, hey, you know what? So if they call me a year from now, 6 months from now, 3.5 years from now, I'll jump on because I've been doing this for 30 years anyway. Well, I'm going to keep doing it. So if I can join with them or they can join forces with me or they get me with a bunch of my colleagues together and we can help them to figure out how we can make this whole thing work because it's not one person. That's the thing. They think it's like RFK Jr. is going to do this by himself. He's not. He's going to build an army of people around him that are going to be into health and wellness and want to see people get healthy and well. I'll give you a great example. September of 2023, I have a patient come in and I just said to him flat out, like, dude, you're fat. Like, no, nothing against you personally, but like you look sick. The reason you have problems because you and your wife eat like crap. And I'm going on and on and on, okay? So last week, guess who came back to see me? That guy. Walks in the door. He doesn't weigh 255 anymore. And I'm not talking healthy 255. I'm talking like 255 and he's really fat. Again, nothing against heavy people, but I'm just like, you can't be healthy and look like that. You could look like me, look fit like I am, and be riddled with cancer. I get that. We call that skinny fat. But there's no way you can look like that and be healthy. So guess what he does? He takes what I say to heart. He and his wife say, hey, we're going to stop drinking. Now, it wasn't like he drank all the time, but he realized he got a Whoop. And he realized, now you could do it with a Whoop, an Oura Ring, or Apple Watch. Look at your sleep at night. He goes, every night I drank for the next like 3 or 4 nights, I would have terrible sleep. REM sleep, deep sleep. I'd wake up in the morning. I realized I didn't feel very good. But he goes, I didn't realize that until I stopped. And then I started seeing all my numbers change. He goes, that was the first thing. And then I started realizing maybe I should start looking into nutrition like you told me. He goes, because it really was like a bat upside the head. And I realized how bad I felt. And this guy was 29 years old. He's 31 now. 29. Wow. Felt terrible. Yeah. Guess what he weighed when we walked in? Because I said to him, hey, Where's the rest of you? He weighs 185 pounds. He's just jacked. You know what I mean?
Wow.
He looks fantastic. He goes, if I miss a day of working out, I don't feel quite right. If I eat bad food, if I'm with my family and we're traveling, because we went to, I think it was Hawaii or California or whatever, and they were traveling, and he ate some, bad food for him. And which is the typical American diet. And he goes, I was so sick, like not vomiting or anything, but I just felt so like unwell. I didn't feel well. I felt terrible for like 2 days. And that's when I go, but that's a good thing, right? Because you got put in boiling water and you went, that's hot, and you jumped out. Versus the frog you stick in warm water and you slowly turn up the temperature. Next thing you know, it's boiling. Yeah. So he was like, yeah, you're right. That was really a good thing. But completely changed his life. So guess what changes? This is what he tells me. He goes, my sex life has changed. I was having some sexual dysfunction problems. I was having some memory problems. But he didn't realize this until all this went away, right? He goes, I was having recovery problems. I just felt depressed at times. I got angry at times. I couldn't focus. Like all these things went on. And that was with changing his diet. By changing his diet, he changed his microbiome in his gut, which changed his neurotransmitters, which then affected every other part of his life. His business has gotten better. He does landscaping. He makes more money in his business. He enjoys his business more. I mean, just every part of his life improved. So if that can happen with a guy that's 29, between 29 and 31, what could happen to young kids that are on ADD, ADH meds, kids that are obese, kids that have autism? Maybe they aren't as high up they go higher up the scale to quote unquote normal than they would have before, because we give them good nutrition. Like long ago, we said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And we just got totally away from that. We're like, let medicine be your medicine and food be an afterthought.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
whatever tastes good,
food
right?
Yeah. So it's not really food. It's just whatever you put in your mouth, just put in your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a
I
great
know that's
point.
kind of a tirade, but yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, like, it's a great point. Like when you like diet is like it has an effect on you, right? Like what you eat. When I was in high school and I was an athlete, I had a coach who always said, like, you're like a Lamborghini, right? Because you're an athlete. You don't want to be putting, unleaded, regular gasoline in your body. You want to be putting the premium, top of the line stuff so you don't break your Lamborghini, right? And that's kind of like how it is with everybody, right? Like you don't want to be eating junk that isn't going to be like the right fuel for you, right?
Well, yeah, exactly, because garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Right? If I give you real whole food, that gives me life because it has nutrients in it. If I give you something that's out of a box, that's dead food. It literally has no food. So it has no life to it. So if I take a picture, it's called Kirlian photography, and it'll measure, you can call it an aura or energy field or whatever you want to call it, but it basically will tell you if you take a picture of an apple or broccoli or any of that, right? And it'll emit energy from it, right? Photon energy, light, because it's alive. As soon as you cook it in a microwave or you boil it or you bake it or whatever, it just goes dark. There's nothing there. It's not giving life. How can death, like out of a box, how can death give life? It doesn't. That's why I say, like, if you're going to eat your free range beef, you don't cook it to, where it's charred, because now there's definitely no life to it. But if you make it like rare or medium rare, or you just sear it on the outside and then you eat it, like that's the best way to eat it.
Interesting.
Life gives life.
I never heard about that, about like the cooking. So you don't want to overcook stuff and
Correct.
like. So are you saying like microwaving is like generally not
Oh
the
my
healthiest
gosh.
thing too?
Yeah, the highest radiation of anything in your house will be the microwave.
Yeah.
Radiation. You could put a meter outside of it and it's off the charts, and you don't have to be close to it either. You could be like 5 to 8 feet to 10 feet away and you'll still get readings. So do this experiment. I did this with the kids when they were growing up in the last, when they were really little and stuff like that, is you take water, you take two things of water, and then you stick one of them in the microwave. 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, doesn't really matter. And then you let it cool back down, and then you pour it in that plant, 2 identical plants, you pour that one in that plant, and you just keep doing that over a period of time. That one's going to die, and it's going to die way sooner than that one. Wow. Because remember, I think we talked about this before, but the difference between water and H2O is the chemical composition of water. But water is not H2O. Or I say water is H2O, but H2O isn't water. What I mean by that is, if it's devoid of all the energy, like from the sunlight and from going over the river rocks and that's where it gets the energy, that's water. But just coming out of your tap, that's H2O. We call it water, but it's really not. There's no energy to it. There's no life to it. So that's the food that we cook and we kill it, and we call that water. But the one that's still alive, that's the one we call water. So there's either H2O or there's water. Water is life-giving, and H2O is just the chemical composition, but it's not really going to give you life. It's going to keep you, sustainable for a while, but it's not really giving you life.
So you're saying with water. So you basically you're saying like you don't want to heat up water. Is that kind of like the idea?
Well, you can, but I wouldn't put it in the microwave to heat it up. I would use a microwave to heat up a rice pack or a corn pack or a gel pack or something like that. But I wouldn't use it to heat up my food because it changes the molecular structure. But also does it with water too.
Okay. So with water, I was interested in this.
Good.
So are you saying like tap water, okay, not okay, or like is there a
Not
specific? Okay, tap water, not okay.
So here's another thing. Look at your water and do something called an ORP meter. Okay, oxygen reactive potential.
Okay.
It should be in the negative numbers because it means it has the ability to oxidize or reduce. I should say reduce, not oxidize. Reduce the water. So in other words, it's like an antioxidant. The more negative the numbers, the better off it is. So if I give you hydrogen water, it's going to drop to 600, something like that. Mm-hmm. But if I give you just regular tap water, it's going to be in the positives. That's bad for you.
Okay, so what kind of water should you drink then?
Either structured water or hydrogen water. And there's different makers out there and that kind of thing. You got to look at who's got the best parts per million. So there's one, what's it called? EcoHealth, but the one I use is called Evolve, EVOLV. There's different ones out there, but the other ones that are knockoffs, because you're going to pay probably $200 to $300 for the technology. The ones that are knockoffs are like $50, $20.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get many parts per million. Yeah.
Okay,
so that's like drinking an antioxidant. That's going to be really good for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I hadn't really heard about I thought like water was water. You know what I mean? So it's like I didn't realize it's not.
H2O is
H2O is H2O.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because all H2O is not water, but all water is H2O.
Right. Okay.
It has that chemical composition, but H2O itself doesn't have the energy to call it water.
Yeah.
Just like this. Every turn is not a hairpin turn, but every hairpin turn is a turn.
It's a turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It's just more specific. What's the specificity of that? Is all H2O water? No, but is all water H2O? Yes.
Okay. And here's another question for you, like food related.
Sure.
So what would, just to like give an idea of like how to have food that's honestly really going to be like life-giving, like you're saying, what's just like an average meal that you would have for yourself and how would you cook it?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to eat like that, but okay. So free range beef.
Okay.
Free range chicken. I don't eat chicken, but I'm going to eat free range beef, grass-fed beef, right? Free range grass-fed beef, ounce for ounce, gram for gram, pound for pound, is going to have more omega-3s. If it's fed grass its entire time that it's alive, it's going to have more omega-3s than salmon. So I'm going to eat that. I'm going to eat free range eggs. I'm not going to eat your traditional eggs because most traditional eggs, if you look at I don't know what they're called, Hickmans around in Arizona, they're called Hickmans. They have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of chickens, all in a small little space. I mean, it might be the size of a football field, but they don't move around, and they don't want them to move around because then it'll take up too much space. And they're pecking at each other, and they give them grain feed. They don't see the sunlight. They're in a lot of stress, and we know that any animal will produce stress hormones. Why would you want to eat the meat of an animal that's all stressed out? You eat regular game like deer or elk or venison venison is deer, buffalo or any of that. They're not stressed out, and so their meat's going to be better for you than something that's got all these raging chemicals through it. So that I would do raw honey, because again, if I eat honey but it's not tested, it could have pesticides or herbicides or insecticides. So you need to have your honey tested. I drink coffee almost every morning, but I drink Danger coffee from Dave Asprey because it's got minerals in it. So it's more alkaline. It's not going to rob me of my minerals. It's not going to dehydrate me as much. And I like the flavor of coffee because of all the polyphenols and the antioxidants that it has in it and stuff. But then I also add butter to it. Again, that's free range, organic, grass-fed cows butter. And I'll drop that into it. I put it in the blender. This is what some people don't know. There's a fourth phase of water. People think of gas, solid, liquid, but there's a fourth phase. And you can turn it into that fourth phase where it's not really any of the three. And what that came down to it's called exclusion water. And that is where you put it in the blender, the butter, or you can use MCT oil that's got carbon 8 or C8 oil in it, and you put it in the blender and you put it in for 20 to 30 seconds, and you'll create what's called an exclusion water, and you'll get better absorption of the water, and you'll get better absorption of the butter. And so
you use that coffee and the butter and the blender at the same time?
Yeah,
Okay.
I put it in for 20 seconds, and then I drink it. Like, if I have to cool it off, I might put a little half and half organic, free range, half and half, from a cow or goat. Doesn't really matter. And I'll do that, and that'll be what I have for breakfast.
Okay.
With some supplements, but that's pretty much what I have for breakfast. And that gets me going pretty much through the whole day.
So your breakfast is all liquid?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, sometimes, I'll eat eggs and that kind of thing. But I pretty much stay away from breads. If I'm going to eat breads, then I want it to be something that's natural. I want it to be something that doesn't have glyphosates in it, which is Roundup, which is what we spray on the wheat to keep the bugs off and stuff like that. So, I try to eat as natural as possible. Drink, water for sure, but I'm also going to do salt because we talked about that in the morning. The first thing I should do when I get up is get 5 minutes to 10 minutes of sunlight. That first 45 minutes of sunlight, sometime in that point, I try to get sunlight in my eyes, not necessarily looking directly at it, but maybe indirectly. And then I'll do a cold plunge or I'll do a cold shower for, 30 seconds to 3 to 5 minutes, whatever works for me. And then I'll do my coffee. So Dave Asprey came up with that and calls it bulletproof coffee. You're getting good saturated fats. You're getting good antioxidants. You're going to get a boost in your brain. But I try not to do that for like 90 minutes when I wake up. I know we've talked about this before, but I'll let them know again. Not for 90 minutes because I don't want to burn off the adenosine that I have kind of built up over the night and stuff like that. I want to kind of let the sunlight do that and get up and get aroused and that kind of thing. And then I'll drink my coffee after that, about 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes. And then that's what I do. And then I'll get ready for the day. I'll either work out, because I usually work out fasted. I like working out fasted. And then I come into the office and I get going, and I'll eat maybe between 2 and 6 o'clock, sometimes later, but I try not to eat later because I'm going to bed about 10:30, maybe 11 at most, because I want about 3 to 4 hours where I'm not eating anything. So it's not, because I know, and most people will tell you this, if they eat within 2 to 3 hours of going to bed, their REM sleep and their deep sleep will be way off. Their heart rate variability won't be so good. And those are all good indicators of good sleep, but also good recovery. And what else do I do? Okay, so then people go, what time should I get to bed? So I should get to bed between about 9:30 to 11:30, or I should say 11, and I'll tell you why. In the United States, between 10 and 12, or between 10 and 2, but mostly 10 and 12, we should be asleep already, and we should be asleep for anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. It takes about that time for our growth hormone to kick in from our pituitary gland. And so if I get to bed at like 11, and let's say that doesn't kick in until 12:30, well, I've only got another hour and a half for me to secrete or get these little bursts of growth hormone. And so I'm not going to get as much as I could as if I was asleep at 10 o'clock. And now between 10 and 2, I could get some more growth hormone released. Okay. I know that's a lot of information.
Yeah. So on the sleep subject, so if, let's say, you slept 8 hours every night and at the same times, but it was like something like, I don't know, this isn't a personal question. I go to bed pretty early. I go to bed at like 10:30. Yeah, but I know people who, they work the late shift, they get home at like 4 a.m., they're sleeping until noon. Is that bad for the body, like based off of like that time? Maybe like something to do with the light?
Yeah, it is. Well, research, because of that, the light, it creates our circadian rhythms. In other words, when is our day, when is our night? And so you're going to shift that whole thing. Mm-hmm. The problem with night shift workers, they go, but I make more money, Well, yeah, because it's hazardous duty pay. They actually end up with more cancers, more chronic diseases, and they die at a younger age, a lot younger age, because you're just screwing up nature. Like, that's not following nature. You need to follow nature as much as you can. So yeah, there's things they can do by wearing blockers. Dave Asprey again. I make nothing off of this, obviously, but he has a company called True Dark where you can wear glasses to get rid of this fluorescent light. The reason I love this office is you can see like you're all lit up with sunlight, because in the summer I get this sunlight. In the wintertime I get this direct sunlight. In the summertime it's straight overhead, but I still get indirect because I've got all these windows. And so I like that because I don't have to rely on the fluorescent light. Fluorescent lights are really bad for your brain, not just eye strain, but also for the brain. And so I want to get that natural light into my eyes. If I'm going to be in an office where I didn't have that and I was working for someone else and I couldn't be by the window, then I would wear some glasses that Dave Asprey has. They're like amber, and they block out not just blue light, but lots of the other lights, colors that are in there that are really harmful to my brain, but not just my eyes, but my brain during the day. And then at night, we get exposed to that light again, that artificial light is what I'm talking about, from the TV and from our computer screens and phones and all that. And so you would want to wear then like a red or an amber one that's going to block out all the lights that you don't want to have. Now, does it help to turn it on my phone to put that blocker in there? It does help if you're only on your phone at night. Yet again, most people are going to do better if they're not being around that for an hour to an hour and a half before they go to bed, or you're going to wear some kind of blockers. That would be way better. So that's kind of a gist of how I invest in my day. You notice I said I didn't say spend either, because if I spend, I don't reap a lot of benefit from that. You just like consume it. Like it just goes back and forth. You don't, and the world doesn't. But if you invest, I invest in my patients. I don't spend time, money, and energy. I invest, and by doing that, they reap the benefit. Their family and friends reap the benefit. I reap the benefit. Like it just keeps going on and on and on. It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
It's a lot more like effective when you invest rather than just like spending is just kind of like
it goes and just ends. Like
right.
You drop down money and that's it. That's it. Versus if I invest, it's like I give money and I get back in return.
Yeah.
Right. Just like that, you go, but I played at the slot machines. Do you win anything? No. That's kind of what spending is. Versus I put money in my bank account, my 401k, whatever, and then it gave me a return. Whether how big it is or not, but I got a return versus I'm never going to see the money I put in there. I'll never even see, I'm not getting anything back at all, any of it, let alone the money I put in there, where when I invest, I get something back in return for that. And it might not be monetarily, right? So I invest in money by buying certain machines in this clinic that I have. I mean, there was one year, a couple years ago, I invested, see, it's funny. I invested $100,000. Wow. And the return on that was phenomenal because I'm not talking financially. Although I know it did do that. But what it did physically and mentally and spiritually for people by seeing results so much faster and getting better faster, they were able to get back to exercise. They were able to, okay, you helped me there, so maybe I will talk to you about nutrition. Oh, you helped me there, maybe you can help me with my relationships. And it just kind of like snowballed into helping their entire being and not just working on physically.
Yeah, because you kind of sounds like you're saying like when you're helping someone, you kind of have to build some sort of trust. Like I can help you with this initial problem, but then all these other things, I can help you with that. But you got to like build that trust and that relationship first, right? So
think about it. You walk in here and you see me that look like I do. Again, I'm not saying I'm some Adonis, but I'm 60 years old, right? Most people we go, oh, you're 60, right? And then they see a picture. My patients today said, you know what? I haven't seen you for 2 years. I walked in and went, whoa, Dr. Porman's he's got all this shit together. Like he knows what he's doing. And she's a nutritionist. She's got a master's, she's got a bachelor's, a master's in nutrition, and then she got another master's in regenerative farming. And she goes, man, you got it going on. And I'm like, because I know that my quality of life depends on me taking care of myself by making the right choices. Mm-hmm. And life is all about choices. I could go to McDonald's as easy as anybody else. I'm not willing to pay the price and the consequences for going to McDonald's. Mm-hmm. And so, I want to make sure that the choices I make are going to benefit me. But if you walk in that door and I don't look like this, and I'm talking about changing your diet and getting away from seed oils, and seed oils are cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, safflower oil, any of the oils that aren't natural. Only ones I would eat would be, I would have beef tallow, I would have butter, right? These are all organic, free range, all that kind of stuff from the animals. And then I would do olive oil sparingly, but I would put it on afterwards. I wouldn't cook with it, right? But the other two I would cook with butter, or you could use butter. You could use ghee, which is a clarified butter, or you could use tallow, right?
You ever use avocado oil or?
I wouldn't use avocado. Here's the problem with a lot of olive oils and even avocado oils is they don't have to tell you this, but they can thin it out by adding canola oil to it. They don't have to tell you that.
Interesting. So you could get something that you didn't even know was in it.
Unless you know it's from it's a small batch, and you're going to pay more for it, right? And people don't want to pay. So they're like, oh, that one's $24 and that one's $7. They're going to buy the $7 one because it seems like that's a better deal. It's not better value. It's just cheap. I mean, that's why I hate the word cheap, right? It is cheap. I'm not saying it's not. It is cheap, but that's a better value because that one's going to provide me health. Because what's that one 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road going to cause me to have to spend money on?
In medical bills.
Yeah. Right? Or you're just pain and suffering. That's what we don't get. So again, you walk in and you go, oh, okay, well, I might listen to Dr. Porman because now I have to help you, right? So you look at me and you go, okay, well, he's doing something right because he looks pretty. He could be riddled with cancer, but at least he looks pretty good. And then you listen to me talking stuff, and you go, oh, okay, well, he does eat, like, he eats really healthy, and he doesn't eat crappy food. And I tell people, like, you just have to be so invested in your health that anything you eat, if it's bad, you should feel bad. Like, not physically, you should feel bad emotionally. Like, you let yourself down. Like, why did I eat that? Because if you don't, you're like, we'll eat better tomorrow. It'll never happen. It's always the proverbial carrot where it's always in the future. I'll change that tomorrow. I'll change that habit tomorrow versus just do it today. So let's add on to that. If you're with a partner that doesn't think the same way, could be your mom and dad, could be your brother and sister, could be your roommate, could be your wife, could be your girlfriend. It's not going to work. You got to be, I don't want to sit there and watch someone eat something that smells really good, but I know it's terrible. Because what's that do to me? It makes me hungry. It makes me want to go eat that. Because guess what, bro? For the first 25 years of my life, I ate like garbage. So guess what I was on? Antibiotics all the time. I was sick all the time. The first 25 years of my life, I bet I had at least 20 rounds of antibiotics. At least, because I was sick all the time.
Wow.
Garbage in, garbage out. I played all these sports. I was really fit muscular-wise, but I was just ravaged inside with sickness because my bowels were all messed up. I'd have diarrhea, then I'd have constipation, but mostly diarrhea. Growing up, I couldn't put a ton of muscle on. What I had was all muscle. I had no body fat, but I was sick all the time. I was tired, all that. So we went back. You talked about sleep. Let me go back to that. So I would sleep all the time. I never felt good. So I don't care how long you sleep. What I care about is what's your quality of your sleep. And the problem with when you talked about night shift workers is that they don't get good sleep. You can measure them on an Aura or a Whoop or an Apple Watch. You're going to see they just don't get good sleep. They might sleep 8 hours, 10 hours, but they don't get good sleep. So, and then for me, I might get 6 or 7 hours, and I feel freaking amazing. And I look at this and it goes, man, you're ready to go. 97% recovered. Even though the day before, I worked out for an hour and a half, kicked my own ass, and then went out and hiked and ran and hiked for another 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then the next day I wake up and I actually feel great because what did I do that night when I got home? I got to talk about. I got an Epsom salt bath. I did an Epsom salt bath for 30 minutes. I did my Theragun. I got on the red light therapy bed. I did PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequencies on my legs. And so when I woke up the next day, I felt freaking amazing.
Yeah. So the sleep quality, does that mainly boil down to getting enough REM sleep or deep sleep, or is there any other factors in it?
You got to get somewhere between 30 and 40% of your sleep has got to be in REM and deep.
Okay.
So you're not probably, and people go, well, what if I only got 2.5 hours of sleep? You probably didn't fall into REM or deep or very much of either of it anyway. So it's not like you're going to get 2.5 hours of sleep and you're going to get an hour and 45 minutes total of the other two. That ain't going to happen because that's going to be well over 40%. You're not going to get that because it goes in cycles, right? You're not going to get a whole batch of it and then nothing. And you're going to get smidges of it, a little bit of REM, a little bit of deep, and then maybe some light sleep, and then a little bit of deep, a little bit of REM, and then light sleep. And then it goes in cycles. And so you have to be asleep for 6 or 7 hours. You don't need to be asleep for 10 hours. You can, but I mean, you're still going to see. I've slept for 10 hours just to work on this, and I look and I go, okay, so if I had gotten up at 5 instead of 7, did I get any more REM and deep? And I go, no. All it was shallow sleep. It was very, very, very non-rejuvenating sleep.
Interesting.
And when we get deep and we get REM, that's rejuvenating for our brain and for our bodies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, you know what I forgot to tell you about? Last Friday, my foundation finally got approval.
Oh, yeah.
So freaking awesome, man. It's called the Legendary Healing Foundation. So proud of it because I'm leaving a living legacy. I'm so proud of that. Because over the years, the last 30 years, I'll treat veterans and either one, I have to charge them, which I feel bad because I know what it's like to serve my country and it's tough. And then these are guys and gals that need my help. And a lot of them don't work or can't work. I shouldn't say don't work, but a lot of them can't work. And so I feel bad that I have to charge them. So a lot of times I don't. But then that's not even fair to me, right? Because why do I have to treat these people for free? And so it just becomes this hard thing. And then I get kids that come in here from a couple of high schools I work with that they come from bad parts of town. They need to get scholarships to go to college, and they can't afford it, Or it could be someone else where I'm going to be speaking to a national autism foundation later this year, and at their men's retreat, and same thing. These people go to providers and they'll spend tens of thousands of dollars, and they don't get the results that they want. where I know I could be that resource. Yet, how am I now going to charge them again when they've been paying this over and over again and haven't been getting the results? Or they have, but they've kind of plateaued. So now I'm going to be able to treat these people for free because I'm going to push hard, man. I'm going to have a lot of my patients donate to the foundation instead of paying sports docs paying me. I'm going to pay my foundation.
I'm super proud of my nonprofit called the Legendary Healing Foundation. So go to my website, legendaryhealing.org, and you can donate there to help veterans, underserved youths, and their families.
So if someone wanted to help out with this foundation,
Oh, yeah.
that would be a good spot to go.
And here's the best part. They get to write off 100%. If it's an individual, they write off 100% on their taxes. So,
Wow.
the more they donate, if their taxes, if their personal income is high, then they can write it off, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Then they're not paying taxes. And it's money that they're either going to pay to the government or they're going to pay to a nonprofit. Why not give it to a nonprofit with something like what I'm doing? Because we're going to do lots of things. We're going to do retreats for men and for women and for couples and all that kind of thing that are going through some tough times and that kind of thing, but can't afford it. We're going to do that. It could be like with this autism foundation. I'll probably hook up with them. It's going to be with Wounded Warriors. Like, I love that. Not that organization, but I love guys that have been in the military, gals that have been in the military. And, we have at least one person a day kill themselves that are in the military. And so my thing is, I got to give back, right? I've been doing this for 30 years. I've got to feel like I'm giving back to all the people that have gotten me where I've gotten. And so why not do that? I do that and other people get the benefit. So it's like a win-win-win. I win, right? Because I get to fulfill my purpose in life. The veteran or this underprivileged youth, they win because they're getting care. And then these people that donate to my foundation, the legendaryhealingfoundation.org, they win because they get to write off their taxes. So it's like I said, a win-win-win.
Yeah, just seems like a no-brainer to kind of do this and do all this help. It's great, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't be happy. That's probably one of the, besides my children, would be one of my proudest moments for sure because when I pass, which is going to be 65 years from now, true, it will be something that continues to go on and on and on because I'll make sure that I set it up for success for sure.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's so amazing that you've done that.
Thank you.
No, yeah, it's amazing. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is just some mindset stuff. You're kind of touching on the fact of a lot of the proverbial carrot in front of you, right? Where it's like, oh, I'll just fix this issue tomorrow. What would you say is how do you get over that hump of taking from where you are now to just the next level of living a life that's just so full of life rather than just kind of being passive?
So, again, I know that I continue to talk about other people because I didn't get here on my own, right? I didn't come up with the knowledge on my own. There's nothing new to reinvent or to invent. And you're not reinventing anything. You maybe are making things a little bit better, a little tweak here and there. Maybe you're combining things so it's a different recipe, but the ingredients themselves are being used by somebody somewhere. So with that all being said, I like Dr. Joe Dispenza. I like him a lot. He's a chiropractor. And he's got all kinds of clinical data where you can look at blood, you can look at brain scans, you can look at MRIs of people that have changed, whether it be in their brain, within their blood, or tumors in their body, because they tap into themselves. That's the thing. We all have what we need inside of us, but we all look outside. We look out there to fix what's in here. What we don't understand is that out there will change when we change this. So the mindset could be something as simple as this. I close my eyes. Okay, I close my eyes. I take a breath in. When I take the breath in, I feel it coming in and out of my heart, right? So this is something that we call heart coherence. This is through HeartMath. If you want to look at all their research and stuff, you go to HeartMath, heart and then MATH.org. If you want to buy into their stuff, it's heartmath.com. But all the research is at .org. And they've got lots of research to show that whether you work with first responders or whether you work with the military or you work with athletes, you close your eyes, you take deep breaths in and out, right? And you're nice and relaxed. You could be laying down, you could be sitting up, whatever. You just don't want there to be a lot of outside noise and stuff to begin with when you first start doing this. And then the oxygen or the air you feel like is going in and out of your heart. And then from there, what puts a smile on your face? What really makes you happy? What you could just think of and would make you smile, whether it be a puppy, your puppy, right? Or right? You just smiled. I said that. You're like, oh, I love my dog. Or it could be your grandma, or it could be your best friend, could be your wife, could be your girlfriend, like whatever it is. It just makes you smile. It could be someone's passed, or not. Like I've got a grandbaby coming August 26th. I actually didn't tell you that either. So I'm gonna be a grandpa for the first time.
Wow.
And
Congrats.
so stop for a second. So I'm crying, and my daughter's like, "Hey, so are you crying because of tears of joy?" And I'm like, "Yes, okay, but you got to understand, I'm crying because I feel like I'm 30, but I act like I'm 12." And now I'm gonna have a grandbaby. That's just freaking weird, man. Like, oh man, right? So I know you're laughing, I'm laughing, but my daughter Janae is gonna have a baby in August, and that's actually really cool.
Wow.
That would be a very cool experience because first time any of my daughters have kids, so that'd be pretty cool. But it's like for me, like that's what I could think of. I could just imagine like what's it gonna be like to see that baby for the first time, and it just. So when you're taking those breaths in and out and you're relaxing and you're thinking about that and the oxygen and the air is going in and out of your lungs, out of your heart, it's going to send this wave of coherence throughout your body and from your brain to your heart and your heart back to your brain, is going to get them in sync. And that right there, when you do that, you will see your bodily functions change. That's what's really, really cool about that.
Interesting.
And there's research on that. Right? So that's one of the things like Joe Dispenza talks about is you start with that and then he'll take you through another path. But the biggest thing is what he does is and a lot of these spiritual teachers do is they teach you to unlock the greatness you have inside of you. That's honestly all I do in here. I don't mean that in a mean way, but like I don't give people anything. I could give them frequencies, which I do, but it's not like they're just missing them for the moment. And when I give them the frequency, whether it be frequency of word, whether it be frequency of my hand touch, the frequency of a vibrational tool, the frequency of a laser, the frequency of my sound wave, the frequency of the meditations I have them listen to, the frequency of whatever it is I'm giving them. They already have it. They're just maybe missing it for that moment. But once I give it to them, their body starts to produce it on its own and they're freaking golden. So it's not like they got to do this over and over and over again. Too many people think from a perspective of scarcity. Like if I help them really fast, they won't have to come back. And then how do I make money? Because they'll send you everybody. That's why. Like I treated this professional track coach, 2 weeks ago. Since then, 2.5 weeks ago, since then, he's probably sent me 8 people. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, holy cow. Just like one after another. And he's already I guarantee you this guy's going to help you. He said, hey, I heard about you, blah, blah, blah. Through one of my athletes, I want to come in and see what you do. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I said, come in, I'll just do a demo. I'll show you what I do. He was blown away with what I did. And so he actually gave me a testimonial on my Google review. You know what I mean? I actually didn't actually even become a patient yet. Just saw what I did as a demo. They're lined up to come see me from this one guy because he could feel what it is that I bring to the table. And I tried to tell him the same thing. I know that you're stronger. I know that you're having a hard time figuring that out in your head, trying to compute that. Like, how does that even happen? But I gave you nothing. This is the default program you were born with, and that's all I'm doing is tapping into that. And when we can get out of our way and quit letting the outside forces affect us, and we emanate from the inside out, life is beautiful, man. That's the hard part, though, because we get to the point where we're under so much stress in life and stuff, is that we believe that we're of this world. And we're not. Mm-hmm. We're in this world, but we're not of it. Because if we're of it, why is it when we die, our body's here, but yet John's not here anymore? Because he left, but the body's here, because I'm not this body. I mean, I happen to be occupying this body right now, yet I'm not the body. So that's what, if we can get like, what is the essence of us on the inside and emanate that out versus trying to get stuff from the outside. That's why I think people become alcoholics and drug addicts and porn addiction, all these other addictions, is because they're looking for something to fill holes that they have in themselves versus patch it from the inside out. And we can all do that. That's the thing. I think we all miss our greatness, and that's what I'm really, really good at, is tapping into that. Why do you think I called it the Legendary Healing Foundation? Foundation, because the foundation is just that. It's the foundation, and everything rises from there. So if I can help you heal from the inside out, that's the foundation of your life. And if I can get to the foundation of what's wrong with you, then everything else is possible from there. But you got to set a good foundation, and then it's legendary. So recently I started putting on my text messages that come to my patients before they come see me, it says, expect legendary care, because I will deliver.
That's awesome.
Right? Because that's what I want them to know. That.
Awesome.
And I want to put it out there.
Yeah.
You know what that's equivalent to? Is when Scadaboo said, I am the best running back in the country. and he goes up in the first half, and those guys at Texas are like just crushing him, right? Then the second half, he just lays one on them and just starts knocking guys out, and he's playing exactly how he was playing the whole year, but he put it out there. He put a challenge to them, and they did. They rose up for the first half, and then after that, he destroyed them. I love that. I want to put my money where my mouth is. And then I like that. I like the pressure. I like to be the guy. I like to be the one that people look to for guidance and support. And I like to be the one that helps you tap into your greatness. See, people initially start by coming here thinking, I'm going to give them all the answers. And then they realize, I don't even do that. You know what I do? I take a mirror and I hold it up and I show them how great that they are. That's all I do. I'm not turning the mirror and going, I'm not showing them a window, showing them how great I am by, hey, look at me through the window, right? I actually turn it into a mirror and I go, this is how great you are. That's the difference between legendary healing foundation or legendary healing care versus just average everyday care.
Yeah.
That's the difference between whole foods and processed foods. That's the difference between people that truly are trying to make a difference in the world and people that are just trying to get from point A to point B. And if people get hurt along the way, oh well.
Yeah. No, that's like so true, because like so much of like the way people treat medicine is like it's all like external. You know, you take this other pill, you put it in your body, and then now you feel fine. And it's not really about what changes are happening inside out. It's just about, another external thing. And that's kind of cool that like kind of how you're mentioning, like people can come in here thinking that they were just going to get another external thing that was going to help them, but instead it was actually something so much different and so much more.
It's 100% true. I just had a guy the other day. He's a father, and he's like texting me back and forth, and so we got this like bromance going now, right? Because he's just a cool guy. And they said like, oh, my husband and the daughter said, my dad's really gonna love you, and the wife says, oh, my husband's really gonna love you. And I said, oh, really? And they go, yeah, he's fit like you. He's not as old as you are, but he's fit like you, and he thinks like you, and he's positive, and he's upbeat and all that. And the dude walks in, and I'm like, whoa, I love this guy, man. He's just freaking awesome. And he just emanates this beautiful energy, right? And he eats healthy, and he wants his family to be healthy, and he values what it is I do. And he said to me, you are so much more than a chiropractor, and you're so much more than a doctor, and you're so much more and so much more. And I said, yeah, because I get it. Like, but I also choose, right? I choose to be that. I don't have to be that. Like, just being a chiropractor doesn't make me good or bad. Being a doctor doesn't make me good or bad. What do I do with that, right? So I think I've told you this before, but people come in here, and I believe in this this concept. So it's called kintsugi. I think it's KINTSUGUI or something like that. You can look it up. It's a Japanese art form where they take ceramics and they break them. And when they put them back together, in the glue, they put flecks of gold. So they're worth like tens of thousands or thousands dollars more than they were before. They were worth nothing, but basically before. They were just average. So people come in here and they're somewhat broken, or they think they are. And then I just show them, like, with all these quote unquote broken pieces, I'll help you put them back together. And then I show them a mirror, and they're like, oh, wow, that's pretty freaking cool. And I'm like, I know. And I didn't do that. That's you. And you were quote unquote broken, but look what you are now. And they're like, they really love that. And that's very empowering, because I don't want people to be dependent upon me. I want people to come back, not because they have to. I want people to come back because they want to come back. And there's a huge difference between that. And that's a different mindset of like, I want to go back because I want to see what else he can do with me. I want to see what else he can uncover in me versus what else can he do for me? Or what else can, how long is it going to take to fix my knee? I get people, once their knee's better, they're like, oh, can we take a look at my back and my shoulder? And can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? And can you help me with my diet? And yeah, that's what it's all about though.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of cool too, how it's like, with that like kind of analogy with the, how do you say it again?
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi, yeah. It's not like you're breaking the pot or the ceramic or whatever, and then you're putting it back together and now it looks the same as it was before.
Correct.
Right? Because when you put it back, you're actually, like, the gold highlights like the faults. And so like what you're actually doing is you're not saying everything that happened before is just reversed and gone, but you're actually going to be better than you were before in a way.
Well, and that's what people say to me, like, I just want to be what I was before I got injured. I go, no, you don't. Yeah. And I go, no, you don't. They go, yeah. And I tell them about the kintsugi, and they go, oh. And I go, you want to be better than you were before. And why can't you be?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, in life, like, it just makes sense. Like, you should always, I feel like if you're stagnant, you're going backwards.
You're never stagnant, right? People think that.
Yeah.
And I'll say, if you think that you're the same as I was yesterday or last year, if you think that, then you've actually died. Because plants and animals, living things are always growing or dying. They're never staying the same. They can't. Mm-hmm. It's either growing or dying.
Yeah.
So what are you going to choose to do?
Yeah, and I think, honestly, that's like one of the the great like lies in like just like modern culture is that like you can just kind of cruise and like stay the same, and like your day can look the same every day, and you can kind of just like relax with like all the comforts in the world. But that's not really like how we're meant to be, right? As humans,
No.
like we should always be like challenged. We should always have.
It's like my patient says today. The one is the regenerative. She's got the master's in nutrition and regenerative agriculture, and I was saying to her like, you know what? But without that past relationship, you wouldn't be who you are. And she goes, you're right. And I go, it's not in spite of that relationship because it ended poorly. And this was like 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
I said, it's because of that. Because it revealed who you are. It revealed what you want out of life. It revealed. It didn't make you, it didn't break you, but it revealed you. And she went, yeah. And I go, but it's also not in spite of, it's because of. I liked COVID. Not in spite of COVID, I didn't have a good time in here. It was because of COVID, because I got to see who my real family was, my real friends were. I got to see how people really interacted with each other during COVID. Like my patients in here were like not wearing masks, and we're talking to each other and laughing and having a good time. And I had people coming in here saying, I'm leaving today feeling way better than I did coming in. And most of the time, like 90+% of the time, I just did emotional stuff with them. I didn't even do physical stuff. Even if the physical stuff was bothering them, I said, we'll do that for a visitor to see how you do. And most of the times, that took care of most of the problems. And then there I would clean up and do a little bit of physical stuff. But most of the time, it was just all the mental, emotional stress that they had, maybe even spiritual, during the time of COVID. And so there was no way I was about to close up shop because I was instrumental in helping these people to see that they have everything they need inside of them to overcome any obstacle. So with that, Joe Dispenza talks about how that they take people's blood that can meditate at high levels, and they measure this on brainwaves, okay? And then they take the blood out and they expose it to the COVID virus. And guess what happens? Nothing.
Wow.
Can't replicate. So what did they produce in their blood just from meditating that changed their structure? Because it changes their red blood cells. It changes the function of their red blood cells, changes the function of their immune system to where when you introduce COVID virus, it can't replicate. But if you take other people just from the street and they did that, and it replicates. Like that's crazy, man.
That is crazy.
Just with your mind. You will control your body with your mind. You do every day, so you might as well do it in a good way, because you're either doing it in a good way or bad way every day. Most of us have like all these negative thoughts, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not smart enough, and I'll never achieve that. And I can't make enough money, and and that person's not going to like me. And all, versus just stay within, see the beauty you have, see the find little things, and then that little thing gets bigger and bigger, and just next thing you know, it grows. And that's where you need to go. Not enough of us spend time, or I should say invest time. You see, I'm getting it wrong again. Invest time on the inward journey, but we expect the outward landscape to change. It's not going to change unless we change internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of people talk about meditation before, but what do you do during meditation to actually meditate? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you guys ever get on Joe Dispenza's site, drjoedispenza.com, he'll tell you, like, if you listen to any of his courses and stuff, which I really like his stuff. There's other people too. I really like his stuff. It's where you can become no one, no thing, no place, no time. And when you can do that, that's the essence of who you are. Because you aren't this. You're not here right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's not be just that. Just be. Yeah. Because again, we're not human doings, but so many of us think that we're human doings, and we're not a human being unless we're doing something. And it's really about the being part. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people get stuck on that. Like, I'll say to people in here all the time, like, I really love your being, or I really love the way you be. And they're like, oh, and that's not grammatically correct. I don't give a shit. Like, I love your being. I love the way you be. Versus, I'm not gonna say like I love what you do. Like, a lot of people can do stuff, right? Yeah. But I want to know what's on the essence of the inside. So it's like this: someone will walk in, and you'll say like, what do you think of him? And I go, oh yeah, I really like him. You're like, why? I go, I don't know. He's a good dude. You go, how do you know that? You don't know anything about him. I know him. I just don't know about him. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? Because I can read his energy. This is what we all can do this yet. I've been practicing for 30 years, and I'll continue to practice when I'm 65. But I can read people's energy. I'm not talking like what colors they have and all. I can just get the essence of who they are. They could be a bad person externally. They're doing bad things, but I know they're a good person internally. Or vice versa. They could be doing good things, and I just know inside, like, man, they're just not a happy person. Like, they might be nice to people, but they're conjuring to go after people. So it's not about what you do, it's about what you be. So then people say, but you don't even know me. And I go, no, I do know you. I just don't know about you. And that takes time, right? I need to see you in action about the things that you do. Like I might not like the way you don't put the toothpaste cap on, right? Or I might not like the way you don't make your bed, right? Or whatever it is. Those are doing things though. I just want to know about the being part, because if I have a good being in my life, I can deal with the doing parts. And I can teach you how to be better at doing. How do you teach someone to be a better person? Like you either are or you aren't. If you're a really, really good person, then they can learn the skill sets. Like in here, in my clinic, when I go to hire somebody, I'm looking for someone's being. I'm not looking for what they do, because they can have all the skills in the world and yet just be a really kind of a turd of a person. And their energy is really bad. And I don't want that. I want great energy. You could teach them the skill part.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I think that's like a good point too. Just like you think about like a lot of the best, like, you mentioned like Scottaboo as an example earlier. Yeah. Same thing, like his coach, right, Kenny Dillingham, he talks about how he doesn't really care. Like he's turned away like 4-star, 3-star recruits or whatever, because he's like, you have all the talent in the world, but that's not really what he's looking for. He's looking for a certain type of person. And I think that just kind of like, it's a great analogy for kind of what you're talking about. Is like, it's not really about what you do on the outside that somehow earns like any sense of like good energy or anything like that. It actually does come inside out, which I think is like so true, and like something that a lot of people like choose to forget and stuff. But
well, that's the thing, that right? Like with it be about sports or be in this clinic or anywhere else, who are you willing to allow into your life, right? Because you don't really get more than you allow. So if I'm allowing people to treat me like crap, that's probably the best I'm going to get, is people that want to treat me like crap.
Yeah.
And if I just go, no, I'm not going to allow that. Like, you need to show up and be really good people to me, then that's kind of the people you're going to be. And you also can't attract what you aren't. So if I'm a bad person, it's not very likely, because people say, oh, opposites attract. No, that's freaking magnets, man. That is not human existence. What we find is it's the idea of birds of a feather flock together. Just like I tell people all the time, like I was saying this today, and I go, yeah, but I go, Samir, the reason you and I resonate really well together, I go, because sweetheart, you're an eagle and so am I. I go, if you were a turkey, you wouldn't be in here. And she started laughing, because eagles are up here and turkeys are down here. Not that turkeys are bad, right? They just vibrate at a different level. They just soar. Well, they don't really soar. They walk, whatever. They can fly, but very short periods of time.
Yeah.
But they're down on the ground, and eagles are way up in here. And then if they stop, they're still going to be high in the air. They'll drop down to like feed and whatever, and then they go back up. So I want people that are up here, that vibrate at a higher level, not at the lower level.
Yeah. And then the lower level being people who are kind of like
Negative,
just negative attitude and stuff like that. Or
negative, or just don't see how great they can be.
Yeah.
Right? And again, they're the victims, where the people at the top are the victors. These are the people like, but you don't understand my circumstances, John. I'm like, oh, okay, you don't understand mine. Because the way I grew up, I shouldn't be where I'm at. There's no way I should be at where I'm at. Why didn't I turn to drugs and alcohol and violence and all that, with all the things I was exposed to in my life? And but everybody will use that for an excuse. And again, I didn't turn out the way I did in spite of that. I turned out the way I did because of that. And that's very powerful versus, it was in spite of that. I just don't believe in using that phrase. I like to use the phrase I have, which is because of that. Just like COVID, I thrived in COVID, not in spite of it, but because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Just kind of how you were saying, like the challenges reveal stuff about you and allow you to like make changes and improvements. And like, that's why it's not in spite. It actually does kind of like help you in a way. But I've also kind of heard, like going off what you're saying, I've heard someone say like the thing that a lot of people need in today's like day and age is like, it's like a lot of people are just waiting around like for permission, and at the end of the day, people don't realize that they have the permission to be great, because they think that if this happens, then, I can't, I'm not allowed to, right? If I have this issue, then I'm not allowed to be great, because
as soon as you said that, made me think. I'm at this conference, and this is in Phoenix. It's a free conference. There's 5,000 people there, right? I was one of the first ones to be there. I was like 2 hours before. I'm sitting outside the doors. They open the doors. I go up. I'm sitting in the front row, okay? I have no idea what's going to happen in here, but I'm sitting in the front row. And he says, all right, so anybody here? There's 5,000 people. No, big sure. And he gets through his thing, and then he says, who wants this CD? Up on stage, grabbed it. He goes, now that's what the hell I'm talking about. Why'd you grab that? I go, because you said, who wants it? He goes, but I don't care. You said who wants it? Give it to me. And I ripped it out of his hand, right? He was going to give it to me. He was going to give it to me anyway. And he goes, why didn't anybody? I was the only one that even came close to jumping on that stage.
Wow.
Because that's the way you go through life. You grab what you want. You don't wait for someone to give it to you.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
That's a funny story.
And guess what? He actually, on that CD, he talked about some laws in business, right? And he's talking to Robert Cialdini, which I don't know if you know who he is. I didn't know who he was. He's an ASU professor.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting, right? And he says, as a businessman, you owe it to yourself to be a salesman. I'm like, that's a bunch of crap, man. I ain't no salesman. I'm a doctor. And he's like, doesn't matter what profession you're in, because you're always selling yourself, a product or a service. If what you're selling, will transform their life, will benefit their life, it's your obligation to get them to buy. And I was like, what the hell is that guy talking about? That's kind of very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, that's really pretty cool. And so Robert Cialdini has all kinds of business books out there on strategies and how to be a better salesman. And it's all about being ethical and moral, right?
Right.
But it was really cool. And so I was like, that is really interesting that I'm the only one. 5,000 people. Now, I've seen people in the back row, but no one was like, when I started going down stage, I didn't see anybody like starting to come that way or anybody going back to their seat because they'd gotten up. I was the only one out of 5,000 people because they didn't think they had the permission.
Yeah. I
was like, shit, give me that CD, bro. Let's go. You know?
Yeah.
People listening now, they're like, what's a CD? I'm like, yeah, I know. That's back in the day.
Yeah, that's funny. No, I think that's like a good way to think about it because like sometimes like I can think about like, oh, like you're a salesperson. I think of like the guy who like shows up to your door in the middle of the day and tries to like scam you on some product that doesn't work. But like being a salesperson or, being, selling yourself, like that doesn't have to be some like scammy, like it doesn't have to have like some scammy connotation, right? Like it can actually be like you're saying, like if you can help, but you don't help, like
shame on you.
Yeah, exactly. You have an obligation to show.
If I know the product, the service, or I'm selling myself, I know that I can help that individual. How dare me not? Because they don't know. Like, people. So this is a great one. So I had this pro golfer was going to come see me, and hey, you know what? Agent says he's going to go to this other place. I go, are you freaking kidding me? Like that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And he goes, why? I go, that's like a mill. It's a puppy factory. Like, okay. So I get a call about an hour later. Hey, could he still stop by? I'm like, oh, interesting. Yeah, I know. I go, well, I'll have to work him in and that. And then I get done with the dude and he goes, dude, that freaking blew my mind. That's effing amazing. I'm like, that's what I do. You know what I mean? And he goes, I know, but I was trying to go to the other guy because he was close. And I go, and what'd you get for that? He goes, nothing. Didn't feel any better. I go, how do you feel now? And he goes, it's amazing how much better I feel. I go, because he didn't tap in. He thought he had to give you something, whether it be an adjustment. I think they did an adjustment and some electric stim or something, but they had to give him something. All I did was pull out and help him reveal how great he really is. And he just texted me today saying he feels great, and I'm going to see him again tomorrow before he plays. That's the difference. I don't give people anything. I just pull out of them what they already have inside of them.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. So, like, how could you... I guess just like when it comes to sales and you're just talking about that, I'm interested, like, what is your experience with like being a salesperson for yourself and like, what does that actually look like to be a salesperson, like for yourself and for your own product?
Well, you got to understand what it is you're selling, whether it be, and it might be a service, a product, or yourself. It could be all of those, or it could be two of those, right? And so you've got to understand that very, very well. And then you've got to go, maybe someone doesn't need me. You got to know when they don't need you. And you go, hey, I need to refer you to this person. Or, you know what, the supplements you're taking, those are great, spot on. Just keep taking those, right? Or you got to be okay with saying, hey, you know what, I know you spent a lot of money on that stuff. Was crap. You need to throw it away as fast as possible. And now you need to invest in the stuff I'm going to recommend to you, right? Mm-hmm. And you need to be okay with that, knowing that you're doing it for the right reason. And you're not doing it just to make $1. If you understand that, and then you understand the concept of Robert Cialdini's, of that, I need to do everything I can to convince you that what you need is what I have, if I truly believe that. And some people won't, because they won't buy into themselves, right? I'm not going to be the one that's going to go, hey, why don't you buy into yourself? And I'll just say, hey, you know what, go and pray about it, think about it. If I'm not the guy for you, I'm not the guy for you. If they're going to him-haw around, I'm not going to say, hey, but you need to do it now, because if you don't, the price is going to go up. And I don't do all that, because I know people do hard sell like that. I'm not going to do that, because I want it to be your decision. I don't want me being the one that made it for you, because then you're going to find a way to not make it work. And I want you to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. go back to your question. I just think you need to really know and then own what it is you have to offer, because I don't have everything for everybody. I have specific things for specific people, and I need to know who that population is. Like, so for instance, I don't want people that come in here that don't want to do the exercise. I don't want people to come in here that aren't willing to change their diet. I don't want people to come in here that aren't willing to change their mindset. Like, those are like non-negotiables for me, because you won't get better. If you're here to prove me wrong, then go somewhere else, because I've been doing this a long time. I know what I do works, and I know that how I interact with each individual is just that, each individual. And if you think that I'm giving you some script that I gave someone else, your every single treatment plan is a one-off. And I just don't think enough people know that. They don't really know what it is they do. They don't know what they have to offer, and they don't know when they need to send to somebody else, because they're so afraid, if I let go, how will I ever get that kind of cash back? Because they see it as like, he's $2,000 or he's $1,500 or he's $5,000 or whatever it is, versus I just don't have what that guy has or that gal has. Their condition, I don't have what it is that's going to fix them or get them in the right direction, so I need to send somebody else. They look at it as like, I'm going to give away cash.
Wow, yeah. I think that was really interesting what you said, like every treatment you give is a one-off. Like, I think that's incredible. Like, so
and every visit.
Yeah.
Oh, give me another example. So the girl, she comes back, she flies back from Oregon to see me, because I haven't seen her since she was in high school, and she hasn't been back for a while. So she flies back because she had an Achilles rupture 6 weeks ago. Well, in 6 weeks, 4 weeks she was in a boot. She was in a cast. Last 2 weeks, which was kind of crazy, because if you watch Aaron Rodgers in Enigma on Netflix, in 17 days he's walking on the thing. Now, not all the time, but he could walk on the thing. She wasn't walking at all, and she like hobbled like this, right? She couldn't push off. I treated her one time with doing my targeted frequency therapy, and she could walk completely normal.
Wow.
And she came back and she goes, "It's a miracle. Like, my calf," my mom even goes, "I think your calf has gotten bigger." And I look at her and I go, a little bit. And she goes, "That's crazy." And she had this giant divot where she had ruptured her Achilles, where they reattached it. And she had this giant divot in the scar, and it filled back in, not completely, but today was the third visit. And she's like, "It's absolutely amazing. I can walk completely normal. I can stand. I have great balance. I have better strength. Just all this stuff you're doing." I said, "That's 3 visits." That actually was after 2, right? Because today was the third one. And she said that before the visit. And she's like, "I'm so glad." She said this to me, which I love, right? She said, "I'm so glad I got injured." And I'm like, "Really?" Wow. She goes, "I had to get out of my way. Like, I would not be the person I am if I hadn't ruptured my Achilles." "You know why?" And I go, "Why is that?" She goes, "Because I was always the person that wouldn't let other people help me and take care of me. And in this process, I had to. I can't freaking drive. I can't walk. Like, I can't do anything. And then I'm trying to, do all these things on my own. And I realized, okay, I need some help." She goes, "So I've had to ask for help." She goes, "And then even coming here, like, I have to ask you, hey, can you help me?" She goes, "But you know what? Being around you and hearing how positive you are, and because I'm the king of analogies." She goes, "Hearing that stuff," she goes, "and then getting to visit with your patients and stuff like that." She goes, "It's been really great for me. Like, I feel like I've never been in this spot in my entire life." And I go, "You haven't?" And I go, "And why is that?" And she started, no, I didn't do anything for you. I said that. And she goes, "Yeah, you held up a mirror." I go, "That's all I did." She's a really cool girl. She's 29 now. Wow. And she's just a beautiful girl. And she was just saying, like, "Yeah, that's what you've done for me." I go, "But again, I hold the mirror up. You don't have to open your eyes. You don't have to look and see what I'm showing you."
Yeah.
But she did. And she went, "Oh, I really like what I have going on, I said, "You're a really smart girl, and you're making a difference in the world, and I'm super proud of you." And she needed to hear that, and it was really awesome. I didn't know that. She said that to me today when she was leaving. Like, I needed to hear that, because I really look up to you, and for you to be proud of me, that meant the world to me. And I'm like, wow. So that's a thing. Like, I don't think we all get the impact we can have on other people. We just want to play this small role and go, I open the door. That's called the observer effect. I open the door for you. And it makes sense that my blood chemistry changes, right? I releases positive chemicals because I open the door for you. It makes sense that your blood chemistry would change. What we don't understand is that someone that's an innocent bystander, that's called the observer effect, their blood chemistry changes. Just watching me open the door for you.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So in here, think of the impact. And then the other one is, it's this synergy of she's positive and he's positive and she's positive and I'm positive and that person's positive. And next thing you know, it just starts to accumulate and it just keeps feeding and growing and growing. And so people leave here and go, "Man, I love coming here." And that's with them paying me.
Yeah.
Right? That's the crazy part. They're paying me and they're telling me I love coming here because we create an atmosphere of growth and renewal and stimulation and thought processes, and we evoke it and we make them critically think and just all that kind of thing, that it just perpetuates growth and love and kindness and support and all the things that you want out of life.
Yeah, I kind of like what you're saying, like the open the door thing. I think that's like a great way to like explain like if you want to make the world a better place, like it starts with you, because you may think that like, oh, I can't do anything. Like it's got to be like the government, or it's got to be someone with $1 million. But I mean, when you make a change, like even things that you don't even realize are happening, right? And it's like you can actually make so much bigger of a difference than anyone ever really thinks, but they just don't really realize it.
Well, go back to Gandhi, right? Be the change you wish to see in the world.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. It's literally as simple as that. Because again, if I want love in my life, I can't be mean and hateful to people. I need to be me. I need to be me. That's awesome.
It's a long interview.
Yeah. I need to be loving and kind. If that's what I'm expecting, I have to be what I want to attract.
Yeah.
And then be what you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing too, right? Like this is the way what they call it, quantum physics or the unconscious works. If I'm looking to buy a Jeep, and let's say it's a red Jeep, I'm either going to see a couple of things: lots of red vehicles, Jeeps, or specifically a red Jeep. Why? Because that's in my consciousness of that's what I want to look for. Right. So the subconscious goes, I'll help you find that. Right? When I had a Lexus, I saw Lexuses everywhere. Now that I have a Jeep, what do I see? Mostly lifted Jeeps, because my Jeep is lifted. And I see a lot of them that aren't colored, because mine's not. It's a gunmetal gray. So it's more of a gray color. It's more of a subdued color.
Yeah.
So guess what? Which ones I see are more of the subdued colors. It's kind of interesting. So if I want to attract that into my life, then I need to think of loving, kind thoughts of myself and of other people. And then I need to produce that. So again, it's about my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. If they're in alignment, that's more likely what you're going to produce in your life. Whether you want to say you created it or not, that's what you're attracting into your life. Life is the boomerang. I know I'm giving you tons of analogies, but life is the boomerang. And if I put poop on it, it's going to come back. And it multiplies when it comes back. So if I put poop on the end of the boomerang, when it comes back, it's a big old pile of poop, versus I put a bunch of love and kindness and forgiveness and all that on the boomerang. When it comes back, it's like many-fold more.
Yeah. Wow. So we're approaching an hour and 20 minutes right now.
No way,
this
really?
interview. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's been
All
long.
right. That's good.
So I think this has been a great time. But if there's anything that you wanted to if there's anything you want to wrap it up with, or if there's one last point you wanted to make before we end it.
Yeah.
Just go to the website, legendaryhealing.org, donate to help veterans, underserved youth, and their families.